Today, we're going to talk about the massive changes that have already happened to Throne of Liberty and the big changes that are going to happen this year and why I think it's heading in the right direction, but I'm not sure if it will save the game when it hits the West. Now, Throne of Liberty is actually having a NDA beta test in the West that is starting on Wednesday the 10th. Now, I'm actually filming this on Monday night. Not 100% sure when it will release, but let me just be clear, I haven't played the test yet, but I am in the test. All of the information gathered today is going to be from the dev updates and what the Korean devs and Csoft have actually told us, rather than being based on the Amazon Games NDA test. For legal reasons, I just have to mention that. Now, that test is actually a little bit unusual, because why would you have an NDA when it's already released in Korea? And you know what? I don't know the answer to that right now. I might know the answer to that when I play, but even if I do find that out, I can't tell you because it's an NDA. But that's very interesting in itself. Okay, let's get to the big part of the video. When Throne of Liberty was released in Korea, I played it and I got to, I think, like level 45 or something like that. And then I was purged. They did this thing where you couldn't log in unless you could re-verify your account, and well, I couldn't. So all of the information today is provided by the patch notes and the developers' producer notes and that kind of thing. The game, when it released, if I'm honest, was a bit of a Zergy PvP nightmare fuel. On top of that, it did also have like pay to win. However, I do really believe that the devs are taking some significant measures to change this game, and it might make it unpopular in Korea, but it might just interest the West. So let's get into some specifics. Well, one thing that they recently did, which was quite interesting, is that they added an AI system to detect bots. And I think they did it with this kind of like eye thing that comes and purges your character. I think basically you die and you have to do a capture to get back into the game. Apparently that has significantly decreased the bots, because the bots were a huge problem, and if this works, it works, but I sort of feel like it's going to be an arms race. The next changes are all about PvP. I still think that the core of this game is going to be doing PvP in your guild, and as far as I know, they're not taking out this sort of like guild ranking system, which I personally detest, but they are making some significant changes to PvP and new additions. So one of the things that is an issue in the game as of now is that there are these PvP alliances, which quite frankly are massive. There are official alliances that you can have in game, and then some people are just teaming up outside of the game saying, we won't attack you, please don't attack us, great, we're friends. And that's making some of the PvP incredibly Zergy. The siege, by the way, is probably always going to be Zergy. It's a massive, massive fight, and it doesn't happen that often, and that's completely fine and understandable. But you were also getting Zergs in quite significant numbers at the more local PvP. So the PvP events were quite Zergy, and so were these things called boon stones. Well, actually, I think they're called boon stones and mist stones, and I actually don't know the difference. So these boon stones and mist stones, basically at certain times of the day, I don't think it's like once per day, I think it's like once every other day or something like that. There is an area, this stone, that you have to go and you claim, and then you get boons or rewards from it. These are incredibly Zergy because a lot of the server comes and actually fights over these. Or at least they did when I was playing. What they're going to be doing here is making it so that these are only going to be fought over by one guild. It's going to be one guild attacking, one guild defending. That's it. That does mean that not everybody can participate, and it does mean that there's a new declaration model here. If you're familiar with New World, it sort of sounds a little bit like that at this point. One thing that sort of worries me here is that it's the guild with the highest guild rank that actually gets the most likely chance to participate. The guild rank system is a personal pet peeve. Basically, everything that you do in game buffs up your guild rank. It's nice and all to be working as a guild, but I think that's going to start feeling like a job, and there's going to be so much pressure if you're not performing. If you're not actively grinding this game, you might get kicked out of your guild, and some people will be like, yeah, fair enough, but other people will just feel super stressful with that system. And I think I'm the kind of person who would feel stressed. It's fine if you don't, it's a personal peeve. But that obviously reduces the Zerg because guilds are a max size. Furthermore, at some point, they're actually going to make those cross-server. Not 100% sure how that's going to work or what the rewards are. I don't know if it's in-game already or not, but it sounds super fun. I think that's going to happen at a specific time because they said once per week. But that already, for me, very much makes that an interesting guild versus guild PvP scenario. I'm assuming that the bigger guilds will be able to get into that, and it sounds super fun. In the future, they're going to be adding more PvP content. I'm not 100% sure what changes they're going to make to the siege. I sort of suspect they will make some changes there, because I know there's been a lot of complaints about the big siege and effectively the caravan run, Not 100% sure what they're doing there. That for me is just something that the very big guilds will actually be directly involved. Everybody else will just feel a little bit like a pleb running around trying desperately to help. Now on top of that, they're actually going to be adding some new PvP content. It sounds like there's going to be two main forms of PvP added. First and foremost, it sounds like there's going to be an arena which is going to have rating, ranking and matchmaking. That'll be a small scale skirmish where your individual skills will really start to shine. Secondly, at some point, and we actually already knew this, they're going to be doing a PvP zone, which is sort of a faction versus faction. I just want to say, forgive me if I get any of the details wrong here. Obviously, a lot of this is in Korean initially translated, and I currently can't play the game because I don't actually have a proper legal account. So if I get anything wrong and you're a super hardcore Throne of Liberty enjoyer, let me know in the comments, but do it nicely. For the rest of you, unless you want to go and check out every single patch note and developer letter, let's assume I'm close enough. Next though, after the PvP, let's talk about PvE. So they've added a lot of content since the launch when it comes to PvE. Specifically, they've added more raids and they've added more dungeons. For those of you still wondering about autoplay and that kind of stuff, that was gone before the game even released in Korea. There is no autoplay or auto travel. They've actually made leveling a lot quicker. Now, some people would have you believe that when the game launched, it wasn't that grindy. Personally, it wasn't very enjoyable. It wasn't necessarily grindy. It was just a little bit boring. They have sped up the leveling process. Now, you may not also be aware that the game now actually features these 6-person dungeons. There were a handful of these at launch, but they've gone and added more. And I believe recently they might actually be doing like a hard mode version of those. Don't quote me on that because I haven't seen the source. One thing that they did very early on though is that they added an actual group finder, which appears to be working pretty damn nicely. Now there's other wider changes to some of the systems, some of the gearing, etc. But overall, I think Throne of Liberty is actually making all the right changes. The game was, and probably still mostly is, fundamentally a PvP game, but they're definitely expanding on the PvE content. I think, as I said, they've done more dungeons. I think they're doing more raids. There's definitely guild raids already in the game. I'm assuming they may have expanded upon that. They actually put in some effort to get rid of bots. That seems to have been successful. Obviously, some of the damage was already done in Korea. They added the group finder, and they're going to be adding a lot more PvP content. For me though, they are trying to fundamentally move away from Zergy mass PvP into mass PvP that's not Zergy, but a little bit more balanced in terms of numbers. They also change the events. For example, I think when you do the PvP events, you actually get allocated into a side, and it's then that side versus the other side, and obviously the numbers are vaguely equal, so you don't end up with these situations where you're just getting stomped by more people. The whole intent is that they're trying to make the numbers equal and to reduce this idea that just the most amount of people wins, which I think at its core is a good idea. And I think balanced PvP is better than unbalanced when it comes to numbers. And this is all to say they're making all the right decisions, but it is unfortunately taking time. Some of these bigger changes are only happening in the summer this year, and I would not be too surprised if Throne of Liberty only gets a Western release towards the end of this year and maybe even early next. Now, is that too little too late? Well, we'll have to find out, right? We don't know what's coming out in that time. Something surprising could happen. Arcade 2, well, okay, that's actually not coming, but something like that could come out and maybe overshadow this game. Speaking about overshadowing, this game could also be overshadowed by the fact that it does include some pay to win. Now, people will argue about how bad is the pay to win, but quite simply, if I tell you that the trading post is a real money trading post, you're going to assume that it is pay to win. And you know what? You wouldn't be far wrong. It's sort of true that you will never be the best player on the server because people actually have to go and get the stuff to sell it. And if it was that good of an item, why would they sell it? So you'll probably always be behind the very, very best. But that to me isn't the definition of pay to win. If you're a casual player going against another casual player and you spent lots of money to have better gear than that other casual player, you are going to likely beat that player. That's pay to win. Will you be the best of the best of the best? No. Sure, if you're a top 5% player, this probably won't affect you. But for everybody else, yeah, it's pay to win. And people will say, oh, well, it's only bad at the start and then it sort of calms down. Wait until they then add some kind of gear progression and the whole pattern starts over. Yes, you can get some in-game currency in-game, blah de blah. The arguments go on. it's going to be an element of pay to win. How bad is it? I don't really know. It's hard for me to say, having not really been playing it that intensely. I haven't touched the game for like 4 months. However, I like the direction they're heading in. Let's hope when it comes out, it's good. Why would we not want that? Surely we all want that. So let's pray, let's hope, fingers crossed, let's go. Do it, NCSoft. Why the next test is NDA? I have no idea. They said they're not going to change the monetization. I don't know what they're doing then. And even if I find out, I can't tell you. So yeah, for now, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to my Patreons. I do really appreciate you guys. That is the best way to support me if you can. The next best way might be to come and follow me over on Twitch and watch me play New World. I'm still playing New World. I still like New World. I know I'm weird. It is what it is. For now, have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.